joining also our last session of today, the wrap-up of today. So it's been a packed and a full day with a lot of inspiring panels and also speakers, so it's going to be tough to wrap it up, but we're going to do our best. I'd like to introduce you to the track moderators. You know them already, but nevertheless they're going to help us with the wrap-up of today. Thomas Böhmkes is with me in the studio, Managing Director at Diversity Tourism, and remotely with us is Hans-Ingo Biel, the Executive Director and member of the Presidential Committee at VDR. Hello, Mr. Biel, and greetings to Darmstadt again.
Hello, Katie. Greetings to Berlin.
Nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us to finish up and have a roundup of our day. So you were the track moderator of the business travel track. Maybe you can give us a glimpse really on the leading question, how to stay agile in these times within the business travel.
Well, you know, it has been a really full day with so interesting topics. And one thing that comes to my mind after 3 hours of discussions about meetings, about ground transportation, about air travel, sustainability seems to be the word, the thing on the agenda in the future. And I think it's time to have that on the top of the agenda, but everyone, be it from the meeting sector to the hospitality industry or the airline industry or the car rental industry, everyone is trying to fulfill the needs of sustainable travel in the future. And that was really amazing to hear from all our reference today.
Can you go into that a little bit more details, please? How to connect the dots between sustainability and business travel? What does it mean?
Well, it does mean that the virtual meetings we experienced since COVID, they will stay. They don't go back. The live meetings to digital last year in March from 0 to 100%, and everyone experienced that it's working quite well. No matter that the personal contact, and I see you both in Berlin standing on the stage, which is nice, but I couldn't make it if I would if I had the chance to travel to Berlin today. I had the idea to stay at home because I think, well, for 1 hour to Berlin and back to Frankfurt, that's not sustainable anymore. So this is the reason why many corporates in the future will think, especially when it comes to internal travel, that the option of make it virtual instead of go and travel, this will be the key question in the future.
But this will also have consequences, of course, for the business travel industry. So how actually is the atmosphere right now to still make money in the end in the business travel industry?
And that means look for new options in terms of business travel. Of course, there will be business travel. It's not that I say there will be no business travel anymore, but we're talking about 30%, which will not be the case anymore. So if you look back to 2019 compared to 2022, when we look at the future, I think we will go in the direction of 60, 50 to 70%, which will come back to business travel. But it means that all the industry needs to cope with that challenge and to find new ways to interact with a customer.
How is the atmosphere then? Because now we're, facing a, so to say, standstill for a whole year now with the business travel industry. How do you look and how does the industry look into the 2021 year, but also ahead 2022, 2023? Maybe you can give us a glimpse. Is it rather optimistic or a little bit more pessimistic?
Well, everybody is waiting that everyone gets vaccinated now and the chance to travel again is there. That doesn't mean that all flights need to be done anymore. That's what I said. But right now, I think it's a quite optimistic feeling because we see the light at the end of the tunnel, as you say, and that makes everyone a little positive at the moment.
Thank you so much, Hans-Ingo Biel, for joining us for this wrap-up in the late afternoon here, Central European time, and greetings to you to Darmstadt. You were just mentioning vaccinating, getting vaccinated. That's a hot topic right now. And with me is Thomas Böhmkes. You were the track moderator of the medical track. So talk a about getting vaccinated? This is really a hot topic in the industry as well. So how do you see it, and actually what has been discussed in your track about tourism to get a COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, we have obviously the first two operators to think about to offer travel packages, including to get your corona vaccine, because some destinations are offering this, like India or Serbia.
Hang on, how does it look like? Are you offering a package to get vaccinated in a different country?
Yes, for corona obviously. Yes, this is what we're thinking about. We have one tour operator with us today who thought about to do this, and they have very positive interactions, but also of course negative. So it's a moral thing. So and they said, okay, they want to do it in the moment, but I think probably it will come very soon, because on the other hand, when there's an offer, there will be a demand. So people will take this. And then we have the other big discussion of the corona certificate. So the European Union wants to have that we all get their certificate that we can travel. China is offering this to his people now, but the WHO thinks that it's not a good idea to do this. So there is a big discussion. But now when we get more people get their vaccine, it will to go further on with this discussion, because people want to travel, and when they have their vaccine, you cannot stop them at the end of the day.
So what is your personal opinion maybe on that? When you look back to the day, to your track, is there a demand for tour operators to actually offer tours to get vaccinated against COVID-19? What did they tell you,
Yeah, I think that they will do it in the end, because because it's a business, just a business for them. And then you have countries who are offering this. Why should we do this? I mean, there is no law that you cannot do it. When these countries are offering this, it will be a way for them. Yeah.
Another hot topic in your track when I was listening to it was the corona recovery concept. So what's coming up in that regard?
Yes, we had the European Spas Association with us today, and they told us that many spa destinations in Europe or China hospitals have worked on post-corona treatments. So when people have corona and they have these other problems they get after corona, these destinations will have treatments now for this. Especially also the climate health resorts to get better immune system. And this is, we are going to be really lucky in Europe that we have these old tradition of medical destinations, like from the Greek and Roman times already. We also, of course, sitting these resorts, and we have this infrastructure in Europe, and other destinations around the world, in North America, Asia, they don't have it for other things, but we have this infrastructure, and they really think about it, that we can offer something for this, because people need these treatments. And now I think people have medical tourism much more in their mind. They really think about when they travel, what's the health issues in those countries. That's probably more than before Corona. And that is why I think medical tourism will definitely grow in the next years.
But will medical tourism grow more in Europe? Because you were mentioning the Corona health concepts that are currently already existing in the European infrastructural context, or will it be also an international thing to travel for getting better health and for supporting the medicine?
So medical tourism is not only in Europe. Medical tourism is globally. So you have medical tourism is in all over the globe. But we have, you said telemedicine is really coming up now. With our last keynote speaker from India, he brought it really to the point that he said all these destinations, they should not stop with their marketing medical tourism right now, because this is a growing market, especially if you think about telemedicine, because now you can, when you have, for example, a long medical treatment for a few weeks, then the doctor can do this on the internet first with you, do the checkup on the internet, and then you go only for this little treatment to that destination, and then you can go back to where you live. And this is something that we couldn't do like 10 or 20 years before. And so when we look into the future, in 10 years or 20 years, telemedicine will be a much bigger and will develop medical tourism globally.
So again, bring the medical tourism again together with digitalization, right? Because otherwise it's not possible. Or how do you see the combination? So you need to have strength in both sectors, right?
Yes, absolutely. That is what we heard also from European level. And we had a member from the European Parliament with us, that he said that digitalization is a very key point in the EU fundraising, in the EU funds for the next Also, we heard this from another colleague who said this, that there are many projects who can get EU funds to create those digital projects all over Europe, but also with third countries like China or so Europe really has a focus on this.
This is going to be a very hot topic. We're very much looking forward to our next session when we can go actually deeper in that, maybe on the next ITB. I think that topic will absolutely be with us in next year. Thank you so much, Thomas Böhmkes, and of course, thank you again to Hans Ingenfield at the University of Darmstadt. And ladies and gentlemen, of course, every session will be available for you as a video on demand until the end of May. And a big thank you goes also to our co-host, the World Tourism Cities Federation, and of course the content partners with that track, the VDR and Diversity Tourism. So thank you in that regard. Coming up tomorrow, it's going to be an interesting day. Our day 3 of ITB Berlin now, and I just wanted to give you a quick navigation of what's coming up. E-travel data talks will be circling around the question, what should travel companies really ask from their tech providers? And then, of course, we go into the ATA forum, and ATA stands for Adventure Travel Trade Association, because that's an interesting topic. How does adventure travel look like in times of a pandemic? And of course, how is it developing, and how and which impact does adventure travel tourism have on the climate? LGBTQ travel will be also on our agenda, so to say. Startup Now will bring us these young and fresh ideas from the startup scene in the travel and business industry, and a very special guest will be also with us on stage 2 at the end on this ITB Thursday, because we all know, the ITB family know, the Thursdays on ITB, they are well known for their party. So that's not going to be missed in this digital version at ITB Berlin now. I just wanted to spoil you a little bit, but I see you on dance floor the latest tomorrow night. Thank you so much for watching again this ITB Berlin now, the second day. ITB would be nothing without you. So thanks again for joining us. From every time zone, from every corner, you are actually joining us and watching us. And together with the ITB team, I would love to see you tomorrow again on our third day. And this is for you, ITB Berlin now.
Good afternoon, my name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from eTurboNews.com in Honolulu and Livestream.travel. Today, victims of the Ethiopian Airlines crash in Addis Ababa from 2 years ago met in Washington, D.C. with Pete Buttigieg. He is the U.S. Department of Transportation Secretary under the Biden administration. And the discussion was a 1-hour discussion about the fallout of the Boeing MAX 8 crash in Ethiopia and before in Indonesia. This was not only an Ethiopian problem, it was definitely also an American problem. Americans and people in 35 countries died in this incident. The plane was manufactured by Boeing, the largest airline manufacturer in the world, based in Seattle, Washington, in the United States. And the FAA, the Federal Aviation Administration, safeguarding the safety of our aviation system in the United States, failed in supervising Boeing and coming up with regulations. So victims are still claiming it is not safe to fly on the Boeing 737. The economic question overshadows this question of safety, and the victim organization is also demanding for new leadership in FAA and to hold Boeing accountable. Listen to the activities going in front of the Boeing building today and understand what these victims are still going through after 2 years.
just got another whistleblower contacting us this morning saying that Steve Dixon he wants to make sure the legislation that we worked so hard last year to pass doesn't have any effect in the FAA. He's telling FAA employees that legislation, that's not going to have any effect here.
Dixon blames third world pilots and crew response for the deaths of my sister and 345 others. When I had a meeting with Ali Bahrami, Director of Safety in FAA, I asked him, knowing what you know now, what would you change? What would you have changed? What would you have done better to make sure these two crashes didn't happen? To make sure that my sister, who was going into public health, going to help people, didn't die. He told me we would have changed nothing. Even with hindsight, we did everything perfectly. This was not our fault. We did everything the best we possibly could have. Nothing would we have changed.
This man is working for Boeing inside the FAA. For 30 years, he's been stopping air directives. He's been saying everything's fine, everything's fine. Oh, there's a battery in the 787. Oh, it's encased in metal. Everything's fine, everything's fine. And it was by the grace of God that the people on that plane didn't die. They got off the plane and the plane caught on fire. And then Japan grounded the plane. This is what's happening. Boeing has its people inside the FAA, and the FAA is loving Boeing to death by not fixing these things, by not paying attention to public safety. Boeing is going to kill more people, and it's going to go down.
And this is not the engineers at Boeing. These are these
engineers.
executives.
The engineers
these people are a cancer. Engineers at Boeing, they're trying to make planes better. They're trying to make passengers safer. They're being squashed. These people are trying to fight for safety. They're being threatened of termination. There's a culture of stifling in Boeing, and it's not a culture of safety anymore. It's a culture. Calhoun and Muhlenberg's culture is a culture of profits. It's a culture of profit over passengers. It's a culture of money over engineering, and they're going to strip mine the Boeing Corporation. They're going to take this national champion, leader in safety with the best engineers in the world. They're going to ignore the engineers, and they're going to keep having people die. They're not going to make this plane safer, even though the engineers know how to, because they want to make more money.
In the short term. But of course, if people die, the whole thing is going to fall apart.
Muhlenberg doesn't care though. He's floated back to his home in Iowa on a golden parachute.
No, he's in Silicon Valley. He started a new corporation, $64 billion or something.
Calhoun is very excited about the new bonuses he will receive. These engineers, they're not being paid as they should, and they're not being listened to as they should. We support Boeing engineers. We support FAA safety engineers. We do not support the fat cat executives who are strip mining FAA and Boeing safety culture and killed my sister and 345 others. They want to do it again. They don't care if another plane goes down. They just want to extract as much profit as they can before another accident happens.
There was such confusion in the cockpit. Both pilots in both planes could not figure out what to do, but all the erroneous errors, noises, klaxons, shaking, they could not figure it out. And the thing that was wrong with the auto throttle was unarticulated. That's a terrible thing in aviation. You've got to be able to tell the pilot everything that's going on. So they didn't fix it. They didn't fix the confusion in the cockpit.
Instead of fixing it, Bahrami and Dixon have their racist excuse of blaming third world pilots for the error.
Low income countries.
They are not taking responsibility. They're not taking responsibility for killing my sister, and they're blaming third world pilots,
low-income
countries in a racist way, trying to diffuse blame and take advantage of people's assumptions about other countries and lack of pilot training. This is FAA's fault. This is Boeing's fault. And it's not the engineers,
It's the management.
it's the management.
And these managers, some of them are in this building normally, not in COVID, and they go to Capitol Hill and they say, stop regulating us. We can regulate ourselves. We're so smart. And this is the result you get.
Thank you, guys. Just say your names for me.
Nadia, Nadia Milleron, Milleron, mother of Samia Stumo.
I'm Tor Stumo. Samia was my sister. My name is spelled Torstumo.
Thanks again.
Here, your Samia's picture is flipped. No one would want to be standing out here on a day to commemorate their daughter's death. It's unbelievable that 2 years later they still didn't fix the problems. The only thing that can be done is passengers have to avoid this plane. That's it. Passengers have to protect themselves and avoid this plane.
And airlines have to be ethical, and they have to let passengers know what plane they're getting. Renaming a plane, changing the advertising so that passengers don't know the death trap they're getting on is unbelievable. That's profits over passengers all the way. We hate these cameras. We hate having to stand here. We want to be home. We want to be crying. We want to be holding each other and trying to forget that my sister, who is the most kind person, most caring, full of life person I've ever met, I can't understand how she could be dead. I want to be home with my family, forgetting about it. But instead, I have to be reminded here. Mom has to be reminded. We have to just fight through our grief. We have to put it aside. We can't process our emotions, and we gotta fight for safety because the engineers are not being listened to. The people with the knowledge are not being listened to. So it's up to us, people who are dying inside, to go in front of the cameras and put pressure on managers and executives who refuse to listen. We'll make them listen. And that's to honor my sister, and it's to honor the 345 others who died. We have to do this. Otherwise, what is the point? They just died for nothing? They died to make executives a few $100 million more? Is that why she died, my sister? I can't accept that.
To prevent another crash. That's the main thing. To try to get so other families don't have to go through this. And these executives can prevent another crash. They have the resources, they have the engineering, they have the manpower. They just make decisions. Oh no, we don't want to improve the alarm system in the cockpit. We don't want to bring it up to a 1982 standard. It's at some ancient standard from the 60s or 70s. That standard is outlawed now by the FAA. You can't have such a crazy, nonsensical alarm system in a plane now. But this is a new plane. They got a loophole. They got a loophole. They have this terrible alarm system, caused these crashes, and they could fix it. It's not that expensive to fix, and they just don't because they want to eke every margin of money out of this situation. And then they say, oh, we've reviewed this over and over, and we've done everything possible. Well, there's very many obvious things that they didn't take care of.
They say this is the safest plane ever. More people have looked at this plane than any plane ever before. Well, we have been getting many emails from engineers. Boeing's former director of quality control emailed us. He said he's been with countless engineering colleagues. He's been emailing Boeing, trying to call the management, get in touch with them. He's been trying to give them advice because he thinks they are going down the wrong path. These engineers don't get replies, they don't get responses, they don't even get respect. The management says it's the safest plane. It's the safest plane. They just plug their ears, they don't listen to any criticisms, and they believe it's safe. They don't care.
I have to hold it from the bottom. Just shift my arm.
Out here on the 2-year anniversary of my sister's death. My sister, along with 156 others, crashed into the ground. The plane exploded. At first we thought my sister, maybe she had survived. Then we went to Ethiopia to recover her body. We found out that the biggest piece that they had found of our loved ones was a femur. And since then, knowledgeable engineers, and they've eked out every amount of profit they can by making an unsafe plane, by cutting corners, and by ignoring the engineers who told them it was not safe. We're here because when we went to meet with FAAs, including my sister, how would you have done better? What could you have done better? And he said, we did everything perfectly. There's nothing we could have done better. We did it all great. We would have changed nothing. The management of
system in the cockpit that was a material cause of the crash has not been fixed. And there are a lot of problems with the plane that are being raised by engineers, and people aren't listening to them. So the engineers have reached out to families saying, maybe someone will listen to you. And so we're meeting with Secretary Pete Buttigieg, the new Secretary of the Department of Transportation, today.
Help us make these planes safer. No one is listening. No one is listening to us. It doesn't matter if you're the former Boeing Director of Quality Control, and it doesn't matter if you've been an aerospace engineer at FAA for over 30 years. They're not being listened to. Industry, these executives, they have taken to prevent a third crash. We're here to represent Boeing engineers and FAA engineers who are trying to make these planes safer and who are being lied to and who are being put upon and being threatened. We're here for them. We're not here for us. We're here to make my sister's death mean something. And we're here to make the engineers at Boeing and the FAA engineers listen to. We're here to make change. We're going to meet with
obvious inside this building who were materially contributing to the crash. What would you do if you had done that? You would make sure the plane was safe. I contact some of them and say, okay, the cockpit situation has not been solved. The alerts in the cockpit, you can't unground the plane. And they just give back phrases, it's safe, it's safe. They don't address the real problems that are still there. And we point out the real problems and they just ignore it. They just don't say anything about it. And the only reason could be that they don't want to spend the money to fix the problems.
I'm going to flip this mic on you.
Good evening, my name is Jürgen Steinmetz, reporting for eTurboNews and Hawaii News Online from beautiful Haleiwa, Hawaii. Haleiwa is a sleepy little town on the north shore of the island of Oahu, same island where Honolulu is. And it's known for its relaxed lifestyle, the center of the north shore. It has a lot of restaurants for all the visitors that are visiting the beautiful north shore, looking at the waves in the winter or enjoy the calm beach life during the summer. Yesterday, Haleiwa turned a little bit more violent when enormously heavy rainfall hit the North Shore. Actually, Haleiwa made global headlines. Articles from the BBC in Europe to New York Times, and as far as Japan, reported about the state of emergency that was announced yesterday by Governor Ige in response to this rainfall that left many people in shelters. I drove to Haleiwa this afternoon to see what the situation is, and you see some of this devastation away from the main road, Kamehameha Highway, in residential areas. From what I understand, one person actually got swept into the ocean and has not been found, and you can see the extent of the damage, the call for help, for towels and everything else, and some people have been evacuated to shelters. Now, this drive is concentrating on the main part of Haleiwa, Kamehameha Highway. That's where all the restaurants are, and the shops. And luckily, talking to the owner of the coffee gallery on the Haleiwa marketplace, this area has been spared. There was heavy rain, like there often is heavy rain on the north shore of Oahu, but there is really no serious damage around the Kamehameha Highway to the restaurants and the shops. Everything looked a little bit wet, but halfway normal. According to the owner of a Thai restaurant I went, they closed this restaurant yesterday during the storm, but they're back in business and everything seems to be fine. Some of the restaurants I noticed were closed, but they were closed because of COVID and not because of the storm. So that is halfway good news, and let's hope those that are misplaced and lost their home will get the assistance they need to get back on their feet, and this isn't very easy, specifically during a pandemic. Look at the pictures. This is Haleiwa this afternoon.
situation. They moved it to another building on campus. It was smooth as could be, and the people were so helpful. Boy, I tell you. Uber passenger. This is an awful story. An Uber passenger is harassed and attack a driver. have a sound about that? Yeah, we did. Here's proof from ABC 7 News.